All right, so this video is kind of piggybacking off the last one, or depending on how these get uploaded, because I don't know. I'm going to try and upload them one after the other, but it revolves around calling in. So I used to be one of those people that felt guilty for calling in to work, and I feel like a lot of us have that guilt for one reason or another. Maybe you feel guilty because you have a really cool supervisor and you don't want to put that stress on him. Maybe you feel guilty because now you're going to be short a couple dollars, and which means you can't pay for rent or, pay for groceries or something along the sorts, right? But I'm here to tell you right now, call in. Call in. If I could recommend it, call in once a month, at least, for like a weekend or something. Take some time to spend it with your family, with yourself, doing something that you love, doing nothing at all. You deserve a call-in. And the reason why I say this is because these jobs will absolutely work you 365 days, and they will never once say, hey, I see you've been working nonstop for blah, 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 so here, take a day. There are some jobs that do give VTO, but a lot of that has to do with labor costs and stuff like that. It has less to do with them caring about you actually getting some quality off time. So I would highly recommend calling in. I just had to call in to work because I was dead tired. I could barely even walk. I was the definition of the lights on, but nobody was home. I felt my body just pushing through sheer willpower, but it felt like my legs were just going to tear off my body if I took any more steps. And I called in, and I didn't feel bad about it. I didn't leave any room for interpretation. I just said that I straight up wasn't coming in, and that was that. And I don't feel bad about it. Now, granted, I don't particularly like my supervisor too much. He can just be a little bit passive sometimes. I don't dislike him, but he can just be a little bit passive sometimes. Like one time I called in because I had an actual situation, like a real life situation going on. And the first thing that he said was, oh, make sure you bring me a doctor's note or some sort of documentation or paperwork that you can show me. Now, that's not guilting. I do think that's just kind of an asshole move, but I digress. Look, I don't like to inconvenience people, but sometimes real life happens and there's just nothing you can do about it. And personally, my family and personal life comes far before any job because one, this job can fire me at any point and not give me any reason why. And two, this job really doesn't pay enough for me to actually care if I get fired or not. So I called in and I immediately checked that and said that, hey, this is an actual real life situation. I can't even get you a paperwork or a piece of paper or whatever, or a note to describe what's actually going on. I explained to him what was actually going on because I try not to dump my problems on the people, especially when it comes to personal situations or just exposing personal business. But since he went that route, I felt like I had to retaliate the way that I did, and it worked out. Does it create tension between us? Maybe. He's been cool since, but this recent time that I had to call in, he kind of gave me grief because, like I said, I was just tired and I was honest about it. Like, hey man, I physically cannot do it. And what you got to understand is I don't have a car. So not only do I have to go to work and do my tasks for the day, work and do all that, but I have to walk to work. You know what I'm saying? I left one job, walked to the bus stop, caught the bus to the bus stop that's near my house, walked to my house, got to sit down for about an hour, even though as soon as I got in the house, I knew I wasn't going, so I immediately called. But that means in an hour, I would have had to get back up. I would have had to change, get into my work clothes, get back up, walk all the way to my job, and I just knew I wasn't going to do that. I don't like paying for Ubers too much because Ubers they're so expensive. They really rack up after a while, and my job is only a 6-7 minute walk. It's not that far. It's not far enough to warrant an Uber. I think that would be incredibly lazy and a waste of money. But I've been at that job for almost a full year now, which sadly enough makes me the person who's been there the longest, because anybody that was there a little bit longer than me has already quit and moved on to do other things outside of managers, of course. And in that year that I've worked there, I've worked a lot of long hours, even though I wasn't initially planning to when I first got the job or when I first got hired. But I ended up working some long hours, some long weeks. I don't care what anybody says, 6 hours is a long time. There are some people who work 12-hour days. Yes, that's a long ass time too. But 6 hours is a long time too, because I remember when I first got hired, during the interview when I first got hired, I remember my boss saying that we don't actually get breaks at this job because it's only 6 hours. And the first thing that popped in my head is like, 6 hours is a really long time. You go and sit in the bathroom for 6 hours. How about you go and sit just in a chair or on the couch? It doesn't seem like a long time when you're at home and you get to sit on the couch and watch 3 movies, because that'll be about 6 hours right there, or play video games with the homies for 6 hours. But 6 hours is literally a fourth of your day. So to say that I can't even get 15 minutes for giving up a fourth of my day is just insane to me. And on top of that, never at one point in the year that I've worked there have they been like, hey, you're working a lot of hours, so we're just going to give you a day or two off, to go rest and recover and do all this stuff. Like, no, it's just week after week after week, schedule after schedule after schedule. So you need to be more comfortable with calling in, because if you don't call in, these jobs will work you to death. And I know you still want to get paid, and if you want to use PTO or something, like for instance at my job, at one of my jobs, 2 of my jobs actually, I don't get any PTO or sick time or anything like that. So either it's a hard call in and I don't get paid, or I work with no rest, And for the jobs that just don't pay enough for me to care, I can't seem to make a rationale to not call in when needed. Now, I do my best not to call in, simply because 1, I do want the money, and 2, well, there is no 2 really. I just want the money. But I don't call in super often. I don't think that's unnecessary, or I don't think that that's necessary, just due to the fact that I don't like to inconvenience people. My feelings for my managers aside, which they're not terrible, but they're not great either, I don't have a problem really with my coworkers or anything like that. I don't want to inconvenience them. But at the same time, I do still have to take care of myself, because at the end of the day, that's what it's been basically the entire course of my life. Me taking care of myself, or me letting myself go under and letting my health just plummet. And, I'm starting to get a little bit older. I'm still young. I'm not college spring break young, but I'm definitely not middle-aged or old either. So I'd like my body to work. Excuse me. I like my body to work when I am actually older. And I just felt myself fading away, so to say. Like I said, the other day, I felt like I was just moving like a 60-year-old man. Like I felt like I could barely walk. I could barely stand, bend over. Back was hurting, feet were hurting, legs were hurting. It was all bad. So I don't feel bad that I had to call off. I don't really feel bad that it even inconvenienced somebody. Now, granted, the shift did get covered anyways, so nobody was really inconvenienced in the end, which is the cool thing. But the point of the matter is that had I not called in, I would have exacerbated whatever the hell was going on with me yesterday, and been there at work just absolutely miserable, barely able to stay awake because I could barely even keep my eyes open at that point. My body could barely move, and I'm glad I called in. I had a nice relaxing night. I took a nice long bath. I sat in the tub for at least an hour, just soaking with some Epsom salt. And, I had like some YouTube music, or some YouTube videos and some music playing in the background and all this stuff. And it was great. I laid in bed, put on my little projector screen, and just chilled out for the night. I didn't do anything else physical outside of clean up my apartment and stuff, because I also realized that was going down the drain too. I looked around. I was like, man, this place is a pigsty. I'm not a person that lives dirty. I like to have my living place or my living space clean. I like to keep it clean as much as possible. Sometimes I let it go just a little bit, but when it gets to like a certain point to where I just can't handle it and it's unbearable, I have to clean. I physically, it hurts me to just be inside and see food wrappers and dirty dishes in the sink and see the tub needs to be cleaned out and all this other stuff. So I don't feel bad at the fact that I called in so that I could do that. And then I called in an extra day just to make sure that I was actually rested and that I could go back to, doing what I've been doing, which is working my jobs and stuff like that and getting ready for whatever the future holds. So the takeaway from this is just don't feel bad about calling in. If you're on your final strike, obviously, because I know a lot of these places do the point system and stuff like that. Like my one job, they have it where you can't get 10 points within 160 days. You can't have 10 occurrences, which, funny enough, they say that's lenient, but I think it's ridiculous. But at my girlfriend's job, you can't have any points within, I think it's 90 days or something like that. Otherwise, you're liable for termination. So I don't really know or agree with any of that. I think it's ridiculous. 160 days or 180 days. I'm sorry, not 160. 180 days without 10 occurrences. So for half of a year, I can't miss 10 days of work for half of a year. You know what I'm saying? That's ridiculous to me. But it's kind of the world we live in. It's kind of the society we live in. And we have a whole bunch of, well, I'm just following the rules. Well, this is just the way it is. And, I didn't make the rules. I'm just enforcing them. Well, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people kind of like hide behind that, guys, and it makes it harder to be angry at them because it's like we all have a job to do, and if you don't do your job, you can't get paid. So if your job is to fire me because I have 10 occurrences in half of a year, then by all means, who am I to say that you're a bad person for that? But I do get to make the argument that whoever made this rule is a bad person because they clearly don't care about the health and well-being or any real time off. Now, if more was allotted, obviously somebody would abuse it. I know there's just too much nuance in it to just say like this person's a bad person because of that. There's too much gray area. Nothing's really black or white. But all that is beside the point. To say that at the very least, if you're going to call in, be smart about it, but definitely do it when you feel like you need it, whether it's for a legitimate, serious reason like being completely gassed out and burnt out, or maybe because it's a nice day and the homies want to go kick it at the beach and you want to go with them, but you don't want to, but you're stuck at work. I've definitely done that before, a long, long time ago. Would I do it again? Maybe. I don't know. But one thing I will say for certain is that I'll never feel bad for calling in ever again like I used to. I used to not call in at all. And even one time I showed up to work with a broken hand. This was like nine years ago. And I don't recommend it to anybody. Just call in. Take that time for yourself. Remember that you're a human who gets to live life and enjoy life. And yeah, just don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. These jobs will be okay. I promise you. And if you end up getting fired, you'll find another job. It might take a while. It might seem difficult. But just take care of yourself. But don't do anything that's going to get yourself fired either. If you're on your final strike or whatever, and you care about that job and you need that job, please don't call in. Don't get yourself fired. But if you don't give a damn, then fuck it. Send it. Call they bluff. A lot of these jobs be bluffing. Some of them don't. And that's all the advice I could give you. Yeah. Peace.